Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier, and thank you kindly for stopping by. I appreciate it thoroughly. Looking forward to hosting Jacques Pitteloud at Mindspeak tomorrow. That's at the Intercontinental. Jacques, of course, was appointed the new Director General of the Directorate for Resources, which is the foreign policy department which manages all the Swiss diplomats, the embassies, secures the embassies. It's a pretty serious position. Jacques is a really interesting fellow, wonderfully interesting background, from Bosnia to Rwanda to Kenya, East Africa. Really a very interesting fellow, and I highly urge you all to come tomorrow. Mindspeak is held at the Intercontinental. If you're interested in knowing a little bit about what it is, we have a short video that's on Rich Wrap-Ups. Right now, we serve breakfast from 9:30 a.m. and we start at 10. Last night I went to the 4th of July celebrations, which were a little early at the US Embassy. I'll put up a photograph, and most enjoyable it was too. Quite a party, in point of fact. And as I was leaving, I said to the ambassador, he said, "It was quite a party, isn't it?" And I said, "Well, you had to, really, given that the president's on his way." Holger Scheipitz, "This is how the Germans see the situation in Greece. Give me the money or I will shoot," via Handelsblatt. And Die Welt tweeted a photograph of Varoufakis, and that was an equally amusing one as well. Jamie at Reuters said on his Twitter feed, "Schäuble in 2012, as per Tim Geithner, memoirs. Letting Greece burn would make it easier to build a stronger Europe," he said. Interesting, and probably informs us of his way of thinking here, actually. Home Thoughts, Kenya Pix tweeted, "Morning Rafikis," which is friends in Swahili. "Quite a colourful sunrise on Lamu Island." From there I take you to Sun Tzu, The Art of War. "Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. All warfare is based on deception. Hence, when we are able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must appear inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe that we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near." Sun Tzu and The Art of War. Opportunities multiply as they are seized. And staying with Lamu again, I'll put up a photograph I took 1,742 days ago of the Lamu sunset. Kenya Pix again, the spectacular no-filter sunsets in Kenya. God does the job himself. And then this photograph I liked by Sabi Reserve. This hyena made its way back as the sun was rising to the east. We were once in Lewa, and we'd gone on a walk, and we'd seen, on the other side of a gorge, a hyena's nest, or whatever they're called. And Hannah must have been very young, about 2 or 3. And we were in one of those tents, and at night Nisha woke up startled, and she said she could hear mastication. And she realized a hyena had been standing just outside the tent, and you realize you're in the wild when something like that happens. Political reflection, Xi Jinping has run into the one thing in China he can't control. Chinese President Xi Jinping's signature governing style has been to consolidate power and then wield it aggressively and independently. He's destroyed political opposition within his own party by locking up Bo Xilai and Zhu Yongkang, once rumoured to be against his ascension, for the rest of their lives. Xi's much-touted anti-corruption drive has been a vehicle to practically wipe out their supporters and his opposition from the Communist Party altogether. He created a new National Security Commission, which he heads, then passed a wide-ranging national security law That has been called, and I like this phrase, neo-totalitarian. For the authority it gives the government over everything from culture to space to the internet. Under Xi, the party banned everything from adultery to puns, while silencing and sometimes locking up popular commentators. He's said to make far-reaching policy decisions practically on his own. But the stock markets, despite government attempts to prop them up in the form of urging investors to stay in the markets, loosening monetary controls, stock buying by state-owned banks and oil companies, and various other measures, they're just not falling in line. The Shanghai Composite was down over 5% in early trading in China on Friday, and below the benchmark 3,700 level. If China's markets close down today, it will be the third day in a row, worsening an already painful bear market that is sure to take a toll on an already slowing Chinese economy. I think neo-totalitarian is a wonderfully accurate description, and I like the photograph the courts actually had of Xi Jinping. Holger's tweeted China's worst 3-week stock rout since 1992. Spurs panic sales, and I'll put up that photograph. The National Military Strategy of the United States of America 2015 is a new document. Lots of interesting points, but just a couple. We are more likely to face prolonged campaigns than conflicts that are resolved quickly. That control of escalation is becoming more difficult and more important. And that, as a hedge against unpredictability, with reduced resources, we may have to adjust our global posture. Complexity and rapid change, that's really the world today, Speed and Politics, Paul Virilio, characterize today's strategic environment driven by globalization, the diffusion of technology and demographic shifts. This was interesting today. The probability of US involvement in interstate war with a major power is assessed to be low but growing, which is interesting. Hybrid conflicts also may be comprised of state and non-state actors working together toward shared objectives, employing a wide range of weapons such as we have witnessed in eastern Ukraine. Dempsey writes, hybrid conflicts serve to increase ambiguity, complicate decision-making, and slow the coordination of effective responses. Due to these advantages to the aggressor, it is likely that this form of conflict will persist well into the future. Press TV, of course, which would interpret things its way, says the US military is making provocative moves against Russia and China. And that takes me to a piece I wrote in December 2013, which I'm sure you recall now, The Pivot to Asia Bears Its Fangs. And I was sort of saying that I thought that there was a hardening of the US response in the South China Sea, as you can see. And I see it as still as an encirclement of China, an ability to choke off China. They call it distant blockade operations, but choke off China from its supply of commodities. Global research is talking of an attempt to create a de facto iron curtain separating Russia from both political and economic partnerships in Europe. Muslim Brotherhood has warned of serious repercussions and has called on its supporters to rise and revolt. That's gone to a whole new level. Turkey reinforces Syria border. Davutoglu says no incursion planned. That's Yahoo News. Deployed additional troops and equipment along part of its border with Syria. Syrian insurgents led by Islamist groups have begun a major offensive for full control of the divided northern city. This is Aleppo. It's correct that we have taken precautions to protect our border. If there's any circumstance across the border that threatens Turkish security, orders to act have been given. This is Davutoglu. But no one should have the expectation that Turkey will enter Syria tomorrow or in the near term, he said. I concluded by saying the carve-up of Syria might be at hand, And then Mathieu von Rohr tweeted, massive rebel assault to take Aleppo. If they succeed, Assad has only central Syria left. Going back to the point about the carve-up. And if you see the image, you can see that Assad's control has eroded very dramatically. And then look at this tweet from Jacques Fuat Kirkali 6 years ago, who called himself border reporter. Turkey may attack Syria any moment, and he's tweeted this photograph of Turkish tanks. African leaders must respect constitutions or face turmoil, Francois Hollande. Urged African leaders on Thursday to respect their constitutional term limits amid concerns that some are prepared to risk political instability in order to cling to power. Speaking a day after at least 6 people were killed in violent clashes in Burundi. We witnessed it again in Burkina Faso. Today in Burundi we are seeing the consequences. When these constitutional rules are not respected, are not shared, then there are risks and there are consequences, told reporters in Benin. And we're seeing those consequences, and I think, I've said before that we've entered a new normal. France is thinking of its security because what happens in Africa has consequences in Europe. So by ensuring the fight against terrorism with our African friends, we are protecting ourselves, he said. I found this photograph that he tweeted last December with Eric Cantona. Currency markets, we've seen a little bit of a bounce in the euro, 1.1007 area. Dollar index around just below 96, Japanese yen 123.05. The pound has firmed up a little bit here, 156.25. The Aussie, however, weak, 0.7544. India rupee 63.405, South Korean won 11.2168, Real 309.92, Egyptian pound, and I'm bearish about that, 7.7273. Not difficult to understand why. South African rand 12.2805. Put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index. We've been churning around for a while. We might churn around for a bit longer. The payroll numbers were good, but not good enough to tip the balance. Euro dollar back above 111. I think we're now trading on the Greek news, but really let's see how things develop. I think the Greeks will vote to stay in, actually. I like these photographs from Richard Vines on Bloomberg. Seafood at Goodman Canary Wharf. It looks pretty tasty, doesn't it? And a dish from Matsy's Greek-inspired menu. Sauce Matsy by Bloomberg. Looks pretty good as well. Gold, last time I had a look, actually 1168.62. It's been softening up of late, hasn't it? Crude oil, 56.71, and it's fallen away now. And, it's quite interesting, and I think it's going and gone to $50 from 56.70 now, and that move could happen, relatively quickly, especially if the Iranian news breaks in the next few sessions. Coming to Africa, US operates drones from secret bases in Somalia. Interesting article in the Foreign Policy. Some say the Americans are everywhere, some say they are nowhere, still others say they are everywhere and nowhere at once. But the shadowy US presence in this strategic port city in war-torn southern Somalia has clear consequences for anyone with a share of power here. Talking about 2 bases based out of a fortress of fading green HESCO barriers at the ramshackle airport in Kismayo. A team of special operators from the Joint Special Operations Command, the elite US military organization famous for killing Osama bin Laden, flies drones and carries out other counterterrorism activities. Multiple Somali government and African Union sources have confirmed. They have a base over there, says Abdi Ghani Abdi Jama, State Minister for the Presidency and the Interim Regional Administration in Kismayo. As many as 40 US military personnel are currently stationed in Kismayo. They have high-tech, they have drones, they have so many things. The expanded US footprint in Somalia is part of a broader trend towards deeper, covert military engagement in the volatile Horn of Africa region. And I've talked about this before, and I said, taking a broader sweep, it is clear the US and US Africa Command has carved out a much more forward position on the African continent. In some respects, Barack Obama's pivot to Asia detours through Africa. China has made a parabolic advance across the African continent, and one of the desired side effects of staunching the Al-Qaeda advance is that it also counters the Chinese advance via the insertion of US hard power. The US cannot challenge China's extreme dollar diplomacy, but it can insert hard power with which it can tilt the African pitch. And then, of course, I was also speaking about the control of the Indian Ocean, about how a sine qua non of President Obama's pivot to Asia is US NATO power projection over the Indian Ocean. And I think, with control of the Indian Ocean, you can quite quickly close down China. Put up a photograph I took from somewhere on the Indian Ocean. I'll put up a photograph of Kismayo, Somalia. Weak power grids in Africa stunt economies and fire up tempers. It's New York Times, it's like death, this load shedding, said Miss Gwenya. All of sub-Saharan Africa's power generating capacity amounts to less than South Korea's, and a quarter of it is unproductive at any given moment because of the continent's aging infrastructure. UN has declared the Burundi elections not free or credible. A day after clashes left 6 dead in the capital, UN Electoral Observer Mission said in a report that the elections took place in a tense political crisis and a climate of widespread fear and intimidation in parts of the country. Episodes of violence and explosions preceded, in some cases accompanied, election day activities, mostly in Bujumbura. The mission concluded that the environment was not conducive for free, credible and inclusive elections. The street is infinitely more powerful than ever before in sub-Saharan Africa's history. And I wrote about this when I wrote that piece, Ouagadougou's Signal to Sub-Saharan Africa. I said, we need to ask ourselves, how many people can an incumbent shoot stone cold dead 6 yesterday in Burundi? In such a situation, 100, 1,000, 10,000, that's another point. There is a threshold beyond which the incumbent can't go. Where that threshold lies will be discovered in the throes of the event. What's clear to me, I wrote this in 2014, very young, very informed, very connected African youth demographic. Many characterize this as a demographic dividend, which for beautiful Blaise Compaoré turned into a demographic terminator, is set to alter the existing equilibrium between the rulers and the subjects. And I think the rebalancing has already begun. If you haven't had a chance, I did write a piece about Burundian spillover risks. That's on the website. Look at this photograph from The Guardian of Pierre Nkurunziza at independence celebrations in Bujumbura on Wednesday. There's absolutely no one in the stadium. And then the presidency Twitter handle tweeted this photograph of him, and I'll put that up as well. Interesting piece in the Monde Diplomatique, South Africa's short memory, talking about how much the Mozambicans, the frontline states, suffered on behalf of South Africa, and how South Africa has forgotten that fight against apartheid. 2 photographs of SWAPO supporters in Namibia, and a captured South African tank in Quito, Cuanavale, 1988. That's Angola. South African all share up 4.912%. It fell 0.63% yesterday. Dollar ran 12.28 when I looked last, heading back towards the top of the range, 12.60. Egyptian pound is a sell. It's at 772.73. The Egyptian stock market fell 0.68% yesterday. It's down 6.85% this year. Nigerian all shares down 5.53% this year. Ghana's stock exchange is up 3.58% this year. Angola's Dos Santos tells party it would be unwise for him to step down before 2017. He is, of course, 72 years old and has ruled Angola since 1979, is the second longest ruler in Africa after Teodoro Obiang of Equatorial Guinea. The World Bank agreed to give Angola $650 million in financial support. Church of England has divested from Soko oil over Virunga operations. That's an interesting development, isn't it? That pressure was brought to bear effectively at the pension fund level and not in the Congo, where it would be very difficult to bring it to bear. A villager, I'll put up a photograph, takes part in Draw the Line, Save Virunga National Park campaign against Soko's proposals to drill for oil. I'll put up a photograph of the Virunga National Park that I found on Twitter. And then I like this photograph that Sitawa Wafula tweeted. Where is this? Wanderlust, mosques in Africa. And this is under the hashtag, the Africa the media never shows you. Coming to Kenya, I was quoted in an article saying that the 4.9% growth rate is an early indication that the forecast by both the Treasury and the Bretton Woods institutions, IMF and World Bank, may be wildly optimistic. I said it's a signal the economy is not following the trajectory of 7% as indicated in the budget. It is a significant miss. I expected growth of at least 5% in the first quarter. It's far below expectations. It's the fourth quarter-on-quarter slowdown, or the fifth, according to Bloomberg. Country music finds a home far from home in Kenya. Sir Elvis, dressed in a yellow and black plaid shirt, jeans, boots and a black cowboy hat, tuned his guitar under the wooden roof and neon beer advertisements of the Reminisce Bar and Restaurant. With a signal to the band, he began singing the Don Williams country hit, It Must Be Love, in a purring baritone. Patrons got up to dance, rocking back and forth. I grew up with it, and my parents loved country, said Elvis Otieno, who has become the best-known Kenyan country performer, Sir Elvis. Then somebody else says, just like Dolly Parton sings about her Smoky Mountains, in Tennessee, I want to sing about the hills of Kiambu. I'll put up a photograph of Sir Elvis. The shilling was last at 99.549. It's not looking too good here. We'll go over 100 and up to 107, I think. Nairobi All Share minus 0.33% this year. NSE 20 down 5.34% this year. UAE-based Gulf Petrochem Group has acquired marketer SR Petroleum East Africa and renamed it Aspam Energy Kenya. I learned from a from a Bloomberg report that the shilling weakened 7% against the dollar first 6 months of the year. Its fifth straight quarterly drop and the longest run of losses since September 1999. The stock market yesterday, well, it was a little bit better. It went lower. There were some positive stories. Captoria tea rallied by the daily maximum. It's up 16% this year. Tea prices at the auction have ramped 54.8% higher when compared to January. It's quite a good bounce. Safaricom up 17% year to date, outperformed the All Share, which is unchanged to slightly down. Nation Media up 14.44% this week, obviously celebrating the appointment of Joe Mugando, at least. I'm sure that's what he'd like to think. And why not? Standard Chartered Kenya was applied to split its shares, and that saw the price jump to 302, and that's got a lot more headroom. KCB at 54, very oversold, time to pick up some stock. I think it's improving today. NSE surged 4% yesterday, and that's to be expected given the types of volumes we've seen. 8 billion shilling day. That's the equivalent of about up to a month's worth of business in a single day. It's EABL, very steep drop actually to a low of 290. It's oversold, rebound is expected, but I don't know what's led it lower all of a sudden except that some foreign investor divestment, and that's brought selling pressure on it. But obviously it's been quite a week. We've had that huge volume day when the market was so positive and jumped, and then we came back down again the next day. So a little bit twin-sided for now. Anyway, hope to see you at Mind Speak. And once again, thank you. If you've listened all the way through this, you deserve a medal.